We gave them Marissa's home address in Sacramento. And 3 months later, the shoes arrive. And so now you're like, all right, well, now what's the next step? So we've got 1,800 units in her garage. And she's like, you need to get these out of here fast. And I was like, oh, you're kind of right. So now what do you do? And you have no more money left for advertising and marketing. You're not hiring fancy firms. You don't have much of a strategy other than 1,800 units is not a lot, but it is a lot. So we both agreed to post on our personal Facebook pages that we were launching this business, birdieslippers.com. And we called up all of our friends and we said, would you be open to hosting a trunk show with your network of friends? Invite 30 of your friends at your home. We'll pay for the drinks and some appetizers. And so we did that for months.
I'm Tom Ward, and over the last couple years, I've had the chance to sit down with some of the biggest celebrities and influencers in the world. What I've always found most fascinating is the stories of the businesses that they've built behind the scenes. On this show, you'll get an inside look of what it takes to build a successful business from some of the biggest celebrities, business people, and up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the world. This is The Tom Ward Show.
Hey guys, welcome to the Tom Ward Show, where we talk to the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. And today we have such an entrepreneur. We have Bianca Gates, founder of Birdies footwear company. And I'm excited to talk to you. And I totally understand your origin story. I'm from New Jersey. I understand. And I come from a strict no shoes in the house family. So I would always look at us like on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
We're all dressed up and I look down at our feet. My dad's got the old man black socks with like the gold stripe on it.
Yep.
I don't look any better. I got white tube socks on. I just look at us like we could do so much better than this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you even noticed that we could do better. I think part of it was that since there was no solution for those moments, that nobody thought there was something better. And so we all would walk around, barefoot in socks or in frumpy pajama slippers around some beautiful celebrations of life, like getting together around the table around Thanksgiving. And similarly, I was living in New York for many years, and naturally you take off your shoes. You want to be respectful of your neighbors clacking around your apartment. And I loved entertaining friends and family. We would pre-party at my apartment before going out, and we'd have everyone take off their shoes. And it was just like a constant annoyance that I was, barefoot, or I would ask people to take off their shoes, and, they'd have that moment where they're like, oh, my
good socks
my
on.
socks have holes in them, or they're like, these like dingy gym socks, and I've got these great leather pants on. And so, for me, it wasn't like, aha, I'm going to solve this problem and start a company.
Okay.
It was more, there must be a better solution for this. I gave it a good 10 plus years for somebody to solve the problem, and nobody did. And in 2015, my husband just looked at me and he said, you know what? I don't think anyone's going to solve the problem. I think you should just try it yourself.
Now you say, this was never the plan. I was in sales kind of, but I'm calling bull because for two reasons, right?
Yeah.
Number one, when you were a kid, you wanted to be an independent businesswoman. First
That's
of all, weird career aspiration for a little kid.
Right.
I wanted to play for the Yankees.
Yeah.
I never thought about being a business person.
Yeah.
Most kids probably don't.
Yeah.
So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, my favorite story is you're visiting family in Argentina. You've got bad skin. You find a cream that clears everything up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then what?
I know it sounds bizarre.
Yes.
I think just going back to wanting to be a businesswoman, my parents are immigrants from Latin America. My mom was born and raised in Bolivia. My dad born and raised in Argentina. And they moved here after they got married. And I saw them develop and assimilate in the United States and have a career and find that independence and start their own family here without having their village of people around them. And I learned early on that money is power, being able to be independent and not depending on a partner or a spouse or parents or an inheritance that many of us don't have. That was a powerful thing. And, growing up, I saw my mom. She is my best friend, my biggest supporter, amazing. And she chose to raise us full time at home, 4 kids, and my dad worked. But I saw that relationship of, they were dependent on one another for different things. And she was dependent on him financially, and he was dependent on her for the home stuff. And for me personally, that felt scary, that, my financial future was dependent on my partner. And so for me, I always thought, I'm going to do it differently for myself. I'm going to be financially independent. And that means being a business-woman, whatever that meant. Yeah. My dad was a professor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. So I didn't understand the business world. But I became obsessed with this idea of being a businesswoman. And that to me was independence and freedom. And so right after I graduated college, I moved to New York because that's where I read Business Women Lived. And that's where I got, my big start in sales. But prior to that, I was I was in college at UC Irvine. I lived at home during school.
Sure.
My parents being Hispanic Latinos, I
Stay home till
stay
you
at
get
home until you
married.
get married.
Of course.
So I lived at home and I would drive to UC Irvine. I had severe acne as a teenager. So that was something that I struggled with. But every other summer or so, my parents would fly me down to South America to see family and to go study there. It's their winter, our summer. And so when I was 20, I went down to Argentina, to Buenos Aires, to stay with family and go to school there. And one day I came across this facial cleanser. And after years of suffering from acne that topical medications were not treating, this just started to clear my skin up for the first time after 5 or 6 years of dealing with acne. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, I've hit the lottery. Like, this is gold.
Yeah.
And I need to tell the world about this. And not to date myself, but, social media didn't exist at the time. So I couldn't just tweet or Facebook that like everyone needs to buy this. So I thought, how can I help other people who have been struggling with something similar to myself? So I called my parents and I said, can I have a small loan? I'd like to buy this product and import it into the US and start distributing it. Now, this is my 20-year-old self. I should probably have contacted the FDA, and gotten a license, find out what ingredients there are. But I was so elated that I had finally found a solution to a problem that I had been struggling with for years.
Well, hold on. Stop right there for a sec. Okay. Most 20-year-olds in the same situation would have the same light bulb moment. Like, thank God my skin is cleared up. Great.
Yeah.
They would not start a business or import anything. They would buy a year's supply for themselves.
Right.
And they would go home.
I guess in hindsight, you're right.
But there's something different about you, the way you're wired. Like, what gave you, I'm thinking about the story and I'm thinking, what gave you the confidence to go, okay, I'll import a bunch of cases and of course I'll be able to sell them?
I was 20. I didn't think about it. I just was like, let's just ship it. And, and it wasn't that this is my opportunity to start a business. For me, it was, oh my gosh, I get to help people that are struggling with acne. And, every morning I'd look in my face and I would hate what I saw. Like, that is a terrible way to wake up in the morning and to live. And so to find a solution that can make you feel confident staring in the mirror, you just want to share that with the world. Like, this was not meant to be a profitable business or this was going to be my shot at being an entrepreneur. I just was like, oh my gosh, I have found a cure for something that people are struggling with and I cannot wait to get this in their hands, which is probably how I started my career in sales. My career in sales, I know you did sales for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It was about the love of finding a product that you were so obsessed with that you were excited to give it to the world, to share it with others. And that was my goal with this product. But as it turns out, the delivery came, it was in my parents' garage, and without social media, who am I going to sell it to?
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought it through.
Just walk around looking for acne kids, kids with acne at the mall.
Sort of.
just offering up to them.
I mean, even worse. I was waiting tables at Macaroni Grill.
Okay. Shout out Macaroni Grill.
Shout out Macaroni Grill. A chain Italian restaurant right by UC Irvine.
Okay.
And every night I would talk to tables and I was like, I have like 1,000 units of this stuff. Who am I going to, and I'm like, every night there's new people. Mm-hmm. So I would ask them for their order and again, 20. I was like, hey, are you interested in, clear skin? I'm not kidding. And I would sell them.
Like, how do you weave that into a conversation? Like, I'll have, linguine and clams and give me some garlic bread.
Right.
Oh, that's great. That'll be out in 10 minutes. By the way, do you know anyone with bad skin? Like, how do you even drop that in?
Good salespeople figure out a way to weave it in somehow.
Yeah.
And I would collect their business cards and I would drop off the products at their home or at their office over the next few weeks. And then one night, this woman called me over to her table at Macaroni Grill and she said, I've been hearing about you selling this product. I'm not interested in buying the product, but I am the district manager for Johnson & Johnson pharmaceutical sales. What are you doing after you graduate college? And I said, I have no idea. I graduated in 6 months. And she said, we'd love to talk to you and hire you to be a pharmaceutical salesperson. And so that was my first job out of college in sales. And that really changed the trajectory of my life in sales. But I realized dating back then, my love for sales was always about having a product that I knew could change somebody's life and having the ability to share it with them.
Well, we were talking before we started about community. That's a hot buzzword now. Everybody talks about that. But literally, you tapped into a community of people with bad skin who want better skin.
Yeah.
And you found something that could fix that.
Yeah.
So you were excited. It worked for you. It could work for somebody else. Like
Yeah.
you were obviously passionate about this random cream you found in Argentina.
Yep. Yep.
And did you bring that same passion to pharmaceutical sales, or was that tougher because it wasn't your own kind of thing?
No, I mean, I was selling a few products for to kids. Fluoxinotic, I still remember the name. It was like an eardrop for swimmer's ear for kids.
Okay.
And my job was to see 8 doctors a day and to talk to them about the efficacy of our drugs and why it was better than what was on the market. And I really believed it. I mean, I studied the ingredients. I believed why this was far superior than the generic option. And so, again, I thought, like, how lucky is this doctor to listen to my information that I'm sharing? I really believed that. I was doing them a service.
Yeah.
But I only lasted about a year because in pharmaceutical sales, you work from your home. You have your supplies at home. So I wanted an office environment. But I learned pretty quickly that I loved the idea of sales, that I could get somebody, give them information that they were looking for. And so I talked to my dad about, leaving Johnson & Johnson. What would I do next? And he said, follow your passion. What do you love to do? And, at 22, I was like, I don't know. I love watching TV and, that seems fun. And so he talked to me about ad sales, media ad sales. And I had no idea you could sell airtime to advertisers.
Yeah.
And that started me on my journey. I ended up moving to New York.
Well, before you get on your journey, right? Immigrant parents. My wife's parents are immigrants. They came over from Afghanistan. And I remember when I told them I was quitting my job to do this.
Oh, God.
And I could literally hear my mother-in-law gasp from the kitchen when I told my father-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, the whole mentality, if you don't come from that, is you get here, you get a steady job, something stable, a stable career, and you stay put.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You raise your family and you be grateful for having that.
Yep.
As you were kind of going through your journey, did your parents have the same kind of attitude? Or did they support you in all these things?
They were fully supportive, but, they were generally, great jobs. I mean, working at Univision, Spanish TV network, and, I'm Latina, like that was like the big leagues, and moving into New York, like that was awesome. I would say, and then from there I went to Viacom. So then I was trying to break out of the U.S. Hispanic, because I was Latina, like now I was going into the general, media companies at Viacom. And then I got my dream job at Facebook. And so my parents were just, so proud. And, family around the world knew Facebook. It was the first time we could connect and share photos for free and communicate for free. I mean, that was a disruptive thing. And I was now famous in my family for working at, the Facebook.
Yeah.
So you can imagine when I told my parents I'm thinking about quitting Facebook to sell slippers on the internet.
Yeah.
And I had no experience in product development. This was never like my dream. They were like, what is going on?
Well, first of all, how do you even get a job at Facebook? Are you early on? I mean, I read Sheryl Sandberg and you have all these, great connections. I'm like, well, how do you go from Univision to kind of the tech space? I'm sure everybody wants that job at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you, and you're not even really in the tech industry at the time.
No,
you're in media, but not really
all.
there.
No.
So how do you even get to Facebook?
My husband had a friend who had been in the tech scene and was working at Facebook, and he invited him over to our house for dinner. And I said, tell me everything I need to know. And I just started, learning everything I could. He handed my resume into somebody who, I'm sure was like, oh, this is sweet, but, no, thank you. But the reality is the way I pitched it was, you're now building an ads platform here. You're going to have to talk to the traditional ad agencies and media agencies, and this tech language is not going to translate well to them. You're going to need somebody who can be the middle person, who can translate tech into the media world. And I think ultimately they were like, that's interesting. Let's take a gamble on her. And so, but they made me come in and give this like big presentation to the whole sales team and this was, it was pitching a fake client on why they should work with Facebook.
Okay.
And then also, what does the future of Facebook look like?
How are you supposed to know? They're not giving you the secrets,
and they're like,
right?
you don't need to have the right answer. We just want to see how you think.
Okay.
So I was like, all right. And I remember coming home to my husband and I said, those jerks at Facebook, they're making me this presentation. Turns out I don't really want to work there. Like, if they don't know how great I am right now, I don't want to work there.
Yep.
And he said, you know what? You're scared. You're scared. You're intimidated. Like, this is a scary place.
This is
I get
smart
that.
people, yeah.
These are smart people. But don't not do it because you're scared. Do it. And if they offer you the job and you still decide you don't want to go there with those jerks, turn it down. And I was like, he called me out on it.
Yeah.
And so I worked on my presentation for 2 weeks. And I was supposed to give my presentation at 9 a.m. Monday morning. I'll never forget this. And that morning I woke up, I lived an hour and a half away from Facebook. And my husband woke up early with me and he said, you know what, I'm going to drive you there because I know you're nervous. And he drove me there and he sat in the parking lot and I pitched my heart out. I ultimately ended up getting the job, but it was a massive pay cut. And, at the time I was like, shoot, I have a brand new daughter. I was going to be commuting an hour and a half each way and have a massive pay cut. And people thought I was nuts.
Of course.
But at the same time, I thought, this is the future. If I really believe in myself, having a pay cut is short term because this is going to lead me down a much bigger path and with many bigger opportunities. And because I believed in myself, I said, I'm willing to do this all for this job. This is 2011 to 2017, early.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, they're really slow to move, these big companies. They had questions around, the agencies they were working with, were they right? Were they shooting the right creative for mobile devices? I mean, all these things. And around that time is when I was thinking about, solving this social slipper problem. And I thought, if I could nail this, I could leapfrog a lot of these retail companies with the knowledge I have, leveraging technology, social media, the mobile phones. And so that's when it kind of like all came together for me. It wasn't until 2015 that my husband looked at me one night and said, and I've been at Facebook now for about 4 years. He said, you have been complaining about this social slipper problem for as long as I've known you, 10 years. No one solved it. Why don't you just solve the problem once and for all?
Wow.
And I remember I put my kids to bed. I had a 6-month-old and he was 3. My daughter was 6. Put them to bed. And I was like, me? Like solve this problem? And I poured myself a glass of wine and opened up my laptop and I would do what any successful entrepreneur does. Googled how to make shoes.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And I'm like, where do I start? And I was like, well, this is useless. But he planted the seed. And at that point I was like, could I? Should I? How would I start? And it just became kind of like a creative outlet for me to start to think about it. And it was one foot in front of the other. And I just was so excited about, again, introducing the world to this solution that we all have, which is being at home in frumpy pajama slippers when we're entertaining friends and family. And I thought, if I could figure out how to make this product, I'm going to solve a lot of problems for people around the globe. And that was my motivation.
You were kind of in a similar spot when you went to Facebook originally, like taking a pay cut. I'm sure by this time you're killing it at sales.
Yeah.
You're successful. I'm sure they're paying you good money at the time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So is there that thought in the back of your head, hey, I got 2 little kids. Am I nuts? Walking away from this thing? Facebook's killing it. They're growing every quarter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm killing it. Income's going up.
Yeah.
Like, why would I leave these people?
That never crossed my mind. I mean, for me, I just was like, let's start creating this product. I was never like,
you're not going to quit.
I'm going to quit my job now and I'm going to.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Heck no, I was making really good money. And remember, I wanted to be financially independent.
Yep.
So quitting my job I would be risking so much.
Yeah.
And like, for what? For something that, maybe this was
Crazy
such a bad idea. That's why nobody started this, because it's that bad. But I had to search myself. So no, I stayed at Facebook. So, the best advice my husband gave me was hire a co-founder. And I recruited my best friend, Marissa Sharkey, who is my co-founder. She's the yin to my yang. She is all the things I am not. And she has been a tremendous partner. And we both had the same problem and we both set out to solve the solution. And neither of us had a background in this, but we were determined. We were excited. And about 9 months later, we ultimately had a viable product. And we were like, okay, we have a product and now we're in business. Let's start selling these.
Well, before that, right? So you each put in 50 grand each, which is a ton of money, especially with the, small, kids at home.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
You put that in and you go, wow, that seems like a lot. But actually, now we're finding out it's not a lot to start a shoe company.
No.
And we still don't really know what to do. So you scam your way into a Vegas trade show.
Oh my gosh.
A shoe
so
trade show.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing.
And you go to these meetings and you figure out they're at such a different level. They're speaking technical jargon.
Right.
We need to know, like, how do you put the heel to the where do you buy heels? Where do you buy this? So how did you figure that stuff out?
So we each put in $50,000, which is important for people to know because it was a lot of money to us, but it's
Still
not a lot of money to start a company. But we leveraged what we could and what we had. And that was the amount of money we could invest. And then after that, it was like, what else do we have that we can make this business? And it was our community, our friends. And so we had one mutual friend who had started an apparel business. And we asked her, like, where should we start? And apparel does not translate into footwear. But the one thing she did say is there's a massive trade show that happens once a year in Las Vegas. And I love Vegas. I was like, all right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Called Magic. And you're going to learn a lot there. And so Marissa and I said, great, let's go there. But I think it was like $1,000 to get in unless you were a vendor. So we created fake business cards as if we were vendors to get in for free.
I love the hustle.
And to your point, we got there and it was like, there was one session on, making shoes for beginners. And we were like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
But like the beginners for this conference was like so many levels away from we were like beginners, like where to start. And they started talking about, your tech pack, and your tech pack should include XYZ. And I remember thinking, what the heck's a tech pack? And I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. Like, I'm not going to create a technical package on what, how the shoes should be. So, what's plan B? Plan B was let's just, go gamble, have fun, enjoy the time here, and then go back home and figure out what else we do next. And so we started asking a bunch of people that we knew, how do you make shoes? Do you know anybody who knows how to make shoes? And one of Marissa's neighbors had just moved up there from LA after 30 years in the footwear business. And he's like, I just retired, but I'm willing to help you guys.
Wow.
And he helped us prototype it, and he had connections overseas. And, that led to something else and somebody else and somebody else. And we willed this to success. Oftentimes I hear entrepreneurs say that they're in stealth mode. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so silly. Like the biggest thing that you can do is have people helping you.
I was just going to ask that too, because in your story, it comes up time and time again is asking for help.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people are, I'm going to look like an idiot. I should just know this. Why should I ask for help?
Right.
You don't seem to have the hang up. You're like, hey, I don't know how to make shoes. Hey, does anyone know how to make shoes around here?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why not? No one knows everything about everything.
Yeah. But a lot of people, I've got a 3-year-old daughter and she won't ask for help ever, right?
Right.
You have kids, you've been through those times. But a lot of adults think the same way, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask for help. I'll figure it out no matter what.
Well, that is our opportunity then, because if very few people are going to ask for help, and that is really the secret to success, then yay for us.
Yeah.
I think asking for help is so important.
So you said, basically you willed your way to success. Now, what do you mean by that? So, okay, you get to prototype this guy who moved from LA, helps you figure that out. Now, how are you willing yourself to success? Like, how do you even get the shoes made? Like,
it's
what do
just
you do?
one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, truly. So we found this person that could help us, and we had Marissa's landscape architect draw out the first prototype of the shoe. Because we didn't have access to designers. But I was like, well, you can draw beautiful gardens. Perhaps you could draw this shoe. And we told her we want it to kind of look like this, kind of look like that, but take away this and do that. And she was like, all right. And so we sent that to this person that we had met with, and he sent it to the factory in Asia. And they started to piece it together. And then we'd say, no, tweak this, tweak that. Okay. So then we had to place an order. And it was 1,800 units minimum. So we're like, all right, we had to give them an address. We didn't have a corporate address. We weren't even a corporation. So we gave them Marissa's home address in Sacramento. And 3 months later, the shoes arrive. And so now you're like, all right, well, now what's the next step? So we've got 1,800 units in her garage. And she's like, you need to get these out of here fast. And I was like, oh, you're kind of right. So now what do you do? And you have no more money left for advertising and marketing. You're not hiring fancy firms. You don't have much of a strategy other than 1,800 units is not a lot, but it is a lot. So we both agreed to post on our personal Facebook pages that we were launching this business, birdieslippers.com. And we called up all of our friends and we said, would you be open to hosting a trunk show with your network of friends? Invite 30 of your friends at your home. We'll pay for the drinks and some appetizers. And so we did that for months.
Oh, wow.
Every night after work, I was still at Facebook. Mm-hmm. I would go to a different friend's house, would invite their community of friends. And Marissa and I would tell our story. They would try on the product. We would have, the mobile checkout on our phones. And they would tell their friends. And then one night we were at a trunk show and there was a reporter there who was a friend of the host. And she was a writer for the San Francisco Chronicle. And she thought this is really interesting. And she ended up writing a full page story on us. And that broke us out of our social network into a new network. And then it just continued on like that. From that article, we had editors reaching out to us to keep writing about the social slipper. And then later that year, we had J. Crew's manufacturing team reach out to us and say, we read about you in one of these articles. We think this is really interesting. Could we work with you?
Wow.
And we were like, sure, let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Of course. So they helped us with our next iteration of the shoes in 2016. And that's when I decided to take a sabbatical from Facebook for 2 months to throw myself into this business to really see, is there something here? Because we're getting a lot of momentum.
Was it making like
It was
real money at the
making
time?
money. And by the way, we were profitable since the very beginning because we did not have more money to invest.
Yeah.
So we had to make that $100,000 allow us to survive and reinvest that. And so
You weren't a tech company that
We
says,
were not a
we're
tech
just going to burn cash for the first 2 years and we'll make money sometime.
No, because I mean, especially as women, it was never guaranteed that we would get funding.
Yep.
It's very hard for women to get funding. So we had to make those dollars stretch. And so in 2016, business continued to go really well. We had now Meghan Markle wearing us. I was working with somebody at Facebook who had worked at a PR agency before that and said, I know somebody in Chicago who could maybe help you. And so we asked for help and they said, sure, we could figure out, how to get them to her. And we did. And then, as you do, you just wait. You hope that they not only receive your shoes, but they like them enough to wear them. And she started wearing us in about 2016. And I was like, this is so cool. And she had, I think, maybe 1 million followers on her Instagram. And we would be tagged once in a while. And she was wearing us everywhere. And then in 2017, she's wearing us in London. And there's speculation that she's dating Prince Harry. And we were like, could this, no way. Come on. This would be amazing. And the rest is history.
So what else is going on? I saw you've moved. I love sneakers. I love shoes.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Roadrunners
Yeah,
right
I
now.
saw. So you're into sneakers now.
I'm wearing the sneakers.
What else? So you've expanded the line. So
Yeah.
promote. What is, what do you have going on?
So we started in 2015, very niche, because this was never meant to be a venture-backed business. I was never meant to be an entrepreneur, but just solving this social slipper problem. But ultimately, the customer led us outside of the home. She loved the shoes so much. They were just so deliciously comfortable and really went with her outfit. So she was like, of course, I'm going to wear these out. And so we started to design shoes that would keep up with her everyday life. We added a thicker outsole. She wanted slides. She wanted sandals. Then she wanted sneakers during COVID. She wanted them, more durable for the outdoor elements. And so we've expanded, and with that, we are no longer birdieslippers.com. We found the domain owner and bought the domain birdies.com a few years ago, which is a whole other
That probably
story.
was not cheap.
Was not cheap, and it took a very long time to find the owner of the domain. And
I had to buy my
make that
name
happen.
domain. That's a whole industry I didn't know existed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. But that is how much we believe in the vision of Birdies, which is to make, deliciously comfortable shoes that are really fun, really fresh, make you feel confident, and keep up with, your busy day. We like to say, from coffee to cocktails. You're looking good and feeling good all day. So we're going to continue to double down on what we're known for and what we're good at, which is comfortable, stylish footwear for women.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming, sitting down with me.
Thank
This
you.
was
Such
a blast.
a pleasure. It was so much fun.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. New interviews every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. And also, if you don't have time to watch the whole YouTube video, make sure you check out the audio podcast available on all podcast platforms. Thanks, guys.